Commander Yuna stood alone in her private quarters aboard the starship Starweaver. Her silver skin glowed softly in the dim light as she read the message on her screen for the third time. The words had not changed, but she kept hoping they would. The Galactic Council had chosen her for the Human Integration Program. A human soldier would be living on her ship. He would eat with her crew. He would walk the same halls she walked. He would breathe the same recycled air. Yuna pressed her long fingers against her temples and closed her eyes. She could already feel the headache building behind her eyes. The Valari were empaths. They could feel the emotions of every living being around them. It was not a choice. It was like breathing or seeing. Yuna could sense when her crew members were happy, sad, angry, or afraid. She felt their love and their hate. She shared their joy and their pain. For 300 years, the Valari had watched humanity from a safe distance. They sent observers to human worlds, always staying far from the crowds, always wearing the strongest mental shields they could create. Even with all their protection, many observers came back broken. Humans felt everything so strongly. Their emotions burned like fire. Where a Valari might feel gentle sadness, a human felt crushing despair. Where a Valari might feel mild annoyance, a human felt burning rage. Every emotion in a human heart was turned up to maximum volume, all the time. The council called them emotionally radioactive. Yuna thought that description was too kind. She opened her eyes and looked at the file attached to the message. Sergeant Doyen, 28 years old. Born on Earth in a city called Bizin. He had joined the military at 18 and served for 10 years. He had fought in something called the border conflicts. He had medals for bravery. He had been wounded twice. He was considered psychologically stable by human standards. That last note made Yuna laugh, but it was not a happy sound. Stable by human standards meant almost nothing. Humans considered it normal to feel crushing anxiety about their future. They considered it normal to carry years of grief in their hearts. They considered it normal to love so deeply that losing someone could break them forever. How could she protect her crew from that? The Starweaver carried 300 Valari. They were scientists, diplomats, artists, and engineers. They had never been to war. They had never known violence. They lived in harmony with each other, their emotions flowing between them like gentle streams joining a peaceful river. One human could poison that river. One human with his loud, chaotic feelings could overwhelm every Valari on the ship. Why Yuna thought about refusing the assignment. She could tell the council that she was not qualified. She could say that her ship was not suitable. She could find 100 excuses, but she knew she would not do that. The council had chosen her because she was the strongest empath in the fleet. If anyone could survive proximity to a human, it was her. If anyone could keep her crew safe, it was her. She would just have to be very, very careful. The next morning, Yuna called a meeting with her senior officers. They gathered in the conference room, their silver faces showing varying shades of blue and purple as their emotions colored their skin. Lieutenant Hannah was the first to speak. She was young, only 50 years old, and her emotions ran closer to the surface than most. Commander, is it true? They are really sending a human here? It is true, Yuna said. Sergeant Do-hyun will arrive in 3 days. The room filled with the taste of fear. Yuna could feel it on her tongue like bitter metal. Her crew was afraid, and she did not blame them. I have read stories about humans, said Officer Taiwu. He was older, nearly 200, and his voice carried the weight of experience. They say that being near one feels like standing too close to a star. The heat burns you from the inside out. Those are exaggerations, Yuna said, though she was not sure that was true. The human coming to our ship has been specially selected. He has training in emotional control. He practices meditation. Meditation? Hannah made a sound of disbelief. Humans cannot meditate. Their minds are too chaotic. They cannot sit still for 5 minutes without thinking of 100 different things. Yuna raised her hand for silence. We do not know what this human can or cannot do. We only know that the council has ordered us to welcome him. We will treat him with respect. We will give him a chance. And we will take every precaution to protect ourselves. She explained the plan she had developed during the sleepless night. Do-hyun would have quarters in the most isolated section of the ship. He would eat his meals alone or with Yuna, who could shield herself better than anyone else. He would wear a special badge that warned crew members of his approach so they could strengthen their mental shields before he came near. We will rotate his contact with the crew, Yuna continued. No one will spend more than 2 hours with him per day. That will give everyone time to recover from the exposure. You make him sound like a disease, Taiwu said quietly. Yuna paused. The old officer was right. She was treating this human like a threat before she had even met him. But what choice did she have? Her duty was to protect her crew. She had to put their safety first. I am doing what I must, she said. When we know more about him, we can adjust our approach. For now, caution is our best protection. The 3 days before Do-hyun's arrival passed too quickly. Yuna spent the time strengthening her mental shields. She practiced building walls in her mind, layer after layer of protection between herself and the outside world. She meditated for hours, finding the quiet center of her being and wrapping it in silence. She also read everything she could find about humans. She learned about their history of war and violence. She learned about their strange custom of keeping animals as companions. She learned about their music, which was so loud and chaotic that most Valari could not bear to listen to it. She learned about their love, which was famous throughout the galaxy for its intensity and its madness. Humans had a saying, they would die for the ones they loved. To a Valari, this sounded insane. Love was a gentle warmth, a soft glow in the heart. It was not something worth dying for, but humans loved like they did everything else. Too much, too hard, too deep. On the morning of Do-hyun's arrival, Yuna stood at the docking bay with her shields at maximum strength. She had dressed in her formal uniform, silver fabric that matched her skin. She had practiced her greeting in the human language until it felt natural on her tongue. She was as ready as she would ever be. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Yuna braced herself for the emotional impact, expecting a wave of chaos to crash into her mind. Instead, she felt something she did not expect. Stillness. The human who stepped through the airlock was not tall, but he held himself with quiet confidence. He had dark hair cut short and dark eyes that seemed to see everything. He wore a simple uniform with no decorations. He carried only one bag over his shoulder, and his emotions were almost silent. Yuna blinked in surprise. She could sense him now, could feel the faint hum of his inner world, but it was nothing like the storm she had expected. It was more like distant thunder, there but contained, powerful but controlled. Do-hyun stopped in front of her and bowed his head slightly in the Valari greeting of respect. He had learned their customs. That small gesture of effort touched something in Yuna's heart. "Commander Yuna," he said. His voice was quiet and steady. "Thank you for welcoming me to your ship. I know this is not easy for your people. I will do everything I can to make it easier." Yuna stared at him for a long moment. All her fears, all her preparations, all her careful plans suddenly felt excessive. This human was not a raging storm. He was something else entirely, something she did not understand at all. "Welcome to the Star Weaver, Sergeant Do-hyun," she finally said. "I hope we can learn much from each other." As she led him into the ship, Yuna realized that her real challenge was just beginning. She had prepared herself to resist a hurricane. She had not prepared herself for whatever this quiet soldier actually was, and somewhere deep beneath his calm surface, she could sense that the storm was still there. He had not conquered his human emotions. He had only learned to cage them. The question was, how long could that cage hold? The first week with Do-Hyun on board the Star Weaver was nothing like Yuna expected. She had prepared for disaster. She had expected crew members to fall sick from emotional overload. She had expected complaints and fear and chaos. Instead, there was curiosity. The Valari watched Do-Hyun like scientists observing a strange new creature. They kept their distance at first, staying behind their mental shields, but they could not stop watching him. This human was so different from the stories they had heard. He was quiet. He moved through the ship like a shadow, always aware of the space he took up, always careful not to startle anyone. He knocked before entering any room. He spoke softly. He asked permission before doing almost anything. "May I sit here?" He would ask in the dining hall, even when every other seat was empty. "Is it acceptable if I use this training room?" He would ask, even when he had been given full access to all facilities. "Would you prefer if I took a different route?" He would ask when he saw a crew member approaching in the hallway. At first, Yuna thought he was afraid of them. But as she watched him more closely, she realized the truth. He was not afraid. He was careful. He understood that his presence made the Valari uncomfortable, and he was doing everything in his power to reduce that discomfort. It was an act of kindness so gentle that it took her breath away. Yuna found herself spending more time with him than she had planned. As the captain, she was responsible for overseeing his integration, but she could have assigned that duty to someone else. She did not want to. There was something about Do-Hyun that pulled at her curiosity. Beneath his calm surface, she could sense depths she did not understand. His emotions were like a vast ocean. The surface was still and peaceful, but she could feel the currents moving far below. One evening, she found him in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. She had learned to announce her presence before approaching him, just as he announced his presence to her crew. "Sergeant," she said from the doorway. "May I join you?" He turned and gave her a small smile. "Of course, Commander, please." She walked to stand beside him at the viewport. The stars stretched out before them, millions of points of light in the endless dark. They were beautiful, but they were also cold and distant. Yuna had never felt alone when looking at the stars before. Now, standing beside this human, she suddenly understood why some species found space frightening. "You come here often," she said. It was not a question. She had noticed his habit of visiting the observation deck late at night. "I like the quiet," Do-Hyun said. "It helps me think. What do you think about?" He was silent for a long moment. Yuna could feel something shifting in him, a door opening just slightly before closing again. "Many things," he finally said. "The past, the future, all the spaces in between." Yuna turned to look at him. In the starlight, his face looked younger, softer. "Your file says you served in the border conflicts, that you saw combat." "I did. Was it difficult?" Another long pause. Yes, she could feel the weight behind that single word. It pressed against her shields, like a hand pushing against a closed door. There was so much he was not saying, so much he was holding back. "You do not have to hide from me," Yuna said softly. "I am strong enough to feel what you feel." Do-Hyun looked at her then, really looked at her for the first time. His dark eyes searched her face as if looking for something important. "With respect, Commander, I am not hiding from you. I am protecting you." "Protecting me?" "My people feel things strongly. Too strongly, sometimes. The things I've seen, the things I have done, they left marks on me. Deep marks. If I let you feel them, it would not be fair to you." Yuna did not know what to say. She had spent her whole life being protected from strong emotions. Her entire species treated intense feelings like dangerous radiation. But here was a human, the most emotionally intense species in the galaxy, trying to protect her from himself. "How do you control it?" she asked. The other observers who studied your people, they said humans cannot control their emotions. They said you feel everything at maximum intensity all the time. Dahan turned back to the stars. Most humans do not control their emotions. They let them flow freely. They believe it is healthy to express everything they feel. But you are different? I learned to be different. In the military, we were trained to stay calm under pressure, to put our feelings aside until the mission was complete. After enough practice, it became natural. He paused, and Yuna sensed something dark moving beneath his surface. Sometimes too natural. Sometimes I forget how to let myself feel at all. The weeks passed and Yuna watched Do-hyun become part of the Star Weaver's routine. He trained with the security team, teaching them human combat techniques adapted for Valari physiology. He ate meals with different crew members, slowly earning their trust. He learned their language, their customs, their music, and he shared pieces of himself in return. He told them about Earth, about blue oceans and green forests and cities that glowed with light at night. He told them about human families, about parents who sacrificed everything for their children, about friendships that lasted lifetimes. He told them about human love, and for the first time, the Valari began to understand why humans would die for it. On Earth, Do-hyun explained one evening in the dining hall, surrounded by curious crew members, we have a saying. Love is not just a feeling. Love is a choice you make every single day. A choice? Hannah asked. She had lost her fear of Do-hyun weeks ago. Now she followed him around like a curious child. How can love be a choice? Either you feel it or you do not. You feel the spark, Do-hyun said. That part happens on its own. But keeping that spark alive, nurturing it, protecting it through hard times, that is a choice. That is what makes human love so strong. We choose it, even when it is difficult. Especially when it is difficult. Yuna listened from across the room, pretending to read a report on her tablet. But her attention was fully on the human soldier and his quiet words. She had begun to understand something about Do-hyun. He was not just controlling his emotions. He was carrying them. All the pain and grief and love and loss he had experienced in his 28 years, he carried it inside him like a precious burden. He did not push it away. He did not pretend it did not exist. He simply held it, quietly, patiently, with a strength she had never seen before. It was terrifying. And it was beautiful. One night, Yuna was working late in her quarters when she felt something strange. A ripple in the emotional field of the ship, like a stone dropped in still water. It was faint, almost unnoticeable, but it came from the direction of Do-hyun's quarters. She set down her work and closed her eyes, focusing her empathic senses. At first, there was nothing but his usual quiet stillness. Then she felt it again. A crack in his control, like lightning flashing behind clouds. Something was wrong. Yuna stood and walked to his door. She raised her hand to knock, then hesitated. He had always respected her boundaries. She should respect his. Whatever was happening, it was private, but she could not walk away. The ripples were growing stronger, and beneath them, she could sense something that made her heart pound with fear. Pain. So much pain, buried so deep that she had never noticed it before. It was rising now, pushing against his control, threatening to break free. Yuna knocked on his door. There was no answer. She knocked again. Sergeant Do-hyun? Are you well? Still no answer, but the emotional pressure behind the door was building. She could feel his struggle, the desperate effort to push everything back down, to maintain the control he had held for so long. Dahan, she said, dropping his rank for the first time. Please, let me help. The door slid open. He stood in the doorway, and for a moment, Yuna saw him without his mask. His eyes were red, his hands were shaking, and his emotions, those carefully caged emotions, were straining against their bonds like wild animals trying to break free. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I cannot. I am trying to stop it, but I cannot." "You do not have to stop it," Yuna said, surprising herself with her own words. "You do not have to carry everything alone." She reached out and took his hand, and the cage broke open. The moment Yuna took Do-yoon's hand, everything changed. His emotions crashed into her like a wave. Not a gentle wave, not the kind that laps at the shore and pulls back peacefully. This was a storm wave, the kind that sinks ships and drowns cities. It hit her with such force that she staggered backward, her mental shield shattering like glass. But she did not let go of his hand. Through their connection, she saw everything. She felt everything. 10 years of buried pain flooded through her in seconds. She saw a colony world burning. Buildings collapsed in sheets of flame. Smoke filled the sky so thick that day became night. She was running, but she was not Yuna anymore. She was Do-yoon younger, desperate, pulling a child from beneath a fallen wall. The child was crying, calling for her mother. Do-yoon tried to answer, but his voice would not work. His lungs were full of smoke. His hands were bleeding. He carried the child anyway, stumbling through streets that had become rivers of fire. There were others. So many others, calling for help, reaching out from the destruction. He wanted to save them all. He tried to save them all. But there were too many, and he was only one person, and time was running out. He had to choose. Yuna felt his heart break as he made those choices. She felt him pick up one survivor and walk past another. She felt him carry a wounded soldier instead of an elderly woman. She felt him save a pregnant mother while her husband burned 20 feet away. Every choice was impossible. Every choice was necessary. And every choice left a scar on his soul. The vision shifted. She saw a military hospital, white walls and harsh lights. She felt the weight of bandages on her hands, on her chest. She heard doctors talking in quiet voices about how lucky she was to be alive. But she did not feel lucky. She felt empty. The people she could not save visited her in her dreams every night. Their faces haunted her. Their voices called her name. Another shift. She saw a funeral with no coffin because there was no body to bury. She felt Do-yoon's hand pressing against a memorial stone, tracing names he knew by heart. Friends, brothers, people who had trusted him to keep them safe. He had failed them all. The grief was crushing. It was a weight that never lifted, a darkness that never faded. Do-yoon carried it every day, every hour, every minute. He carried it while he smiled. He carried it while he trained. He carried it while he slept. He carried it alone because he believed that was the only way. Yuna came back to herself slowly. She was on the floor of Do-yoon's quarters. She did not remember falling. Her silver skin was streaked with tears. She did not remember crying. Her whole body was shaking. Do-hyun was beside her, holding her, his face twisted with horror. "I am sorry," he kept saying, over and over. "I am so sorry. I did not mean to. I could not stop it. I am so sorry." Yuna tried to speak, but her voice would not work. She took a deep breath, then another. Slowly, the shaking stopped. Slowly, the world came back into focus. "It is all right," she finally managed to say. "I am all right. You should not have touched me. I warned you. I told you what I was carrying. You should have stayed away." "No." Yuna sat up, and though her body was weak, her voice was strong. "No, I should not have stayed away. I should have reached for you sooner." Do-hyun stared at her like she had lost her mind. "You felt what I feel. You saw what I have seen. How can you say that? How can you want anything to do with me after that?" Yuna reached for his hand again. He flinched, but she did not pull back. She wrapped her silver fingers around his and held on tight. "Because you have been carrying that alone for too long. Because no one should carry that much pain without help. Because you came to my ship and spent every moment trying to protect us from yourself, when you should have been asking us to help carry your burden." Dahyun's eyes filled with tears. For a moment, his careful control cracked again, and Yuna saw the lost, wounded boy beneath the soldier's mask. "I do not know how to ask for help," he whispered. "I never learned. Then I will teach you." Something happened in that moment. Yuna felt it like a click, like a key turning in a lock. The connection between them shifted, deepened, became something more than a simple touch. The Valari called it a bond. It was the deep connection that formed between close family members, between lovers, between souls that were meant to be together. Yuna had felt bonds before, gentle links with her parents and her closest friends. This was not gentle. The bond that formed between her and Dahyun was like a bridge built of lightning. It was intense and powerful and terrifying. Through it, she could feel him as clearly as she felt herself. His pain was her pain. His strength was her strength. His heartbeat in rhythm with her own. "What is happening?" Dahyun asked. His voice was shaking. "What did you do to me?" "We bonded," Yuna said. She was as surprised as he was. It should not be possible. Valari have never bonded with humans before. Our minds are too different. But somehow, "I can feel you," Dahyun said slowly. He closed his eyes, focusing inward. "I can feel what you are feeling. You are afraid, but also excited. You are worried about what this means. But you are also glad?" Yuna smiled despite herself. "I am glad. I am glad I finally understand you. I am glad I can finally help you carry your burden. And I can feel what you feel," Dahyun said. "Your mind is so quiet, so peaceful. It is like a cool lake after a lifetime in the desert." Through the bond, Yuna felt his relief. For the first time in years, the noise in his head was quieter. The weight on his shoulders was lighter. He was not alone anymore, and that simple fact changed everything. They sat together on the floor of his quarters for a long time, neither speaking, both adjusting to this new connection between them. Yuna explored his mind carefully, learning the shape of his thoughts, the rhythm of his emotions. He was still intense, still burning with feelings that would overwhelm any other Valari. But through the bond, she could bear it. She could even appreciate it. Human emotions were not just chaos. They were passion. They were drive. They were the fuel that pushed humans to achieve impossible things, to fight impossible battles, to love with impossible depth. And now some of that fire was hers. "The crew will sense this," Yuna said eventually. "They will know something has changed between us. Will they be afraid?" Yuna considered the question. "Some of them might be, but I think most of them will be curious. You have already won them over, Dahyun. You have been kind and careful and patient. They have learned that you are not the monster they feared." "And what have you learned?" he asked quietly. Yuna looked at him, at this human soldier who carried such weight with such grace, who had tried so hard to protect her people from his own pain. "I have learned that I was wrong to be afraid," she said. "I have learned that human emotions are not radiation. They are fire. And fire is not only dangerous. Fire also warms. Fire also lights the darkness. Fire also forges the strongest metal." Dahyun smiled, and through the bond, Yuna felt his heart swell with something warm and bright. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for letting me in." They stayed together until the ship's lights dimmed for the night cycle. Then Yuna returned to her quarters, still feeling the bond humming between them like a song that never ended. She did not sleep that night. She lay in her bed and felt the distant echo of Dahyun's dreams. They were not nightmares, not anymore. For the first time in years, he was dreaming of something other than fire and death. He was dreaming of her Dot, and somewhere deep in her own mind, in a place she had never known existed, Una realized that she was dreaming of him too. The universe had given her something impossible. A bond with a human. A connection that broke every rule of Valari biology. Thought she had no idea what it would mean for her future. But for the first time in her life, she was not afraid to find out. The bond changed everything on the Star Weaver Dot at first. The crew did not understand what had happened. They only knew that something was different about their commander. Una smiled more. She laughed at small jokes in the dining hall. She took risks in negotiations that would have terrified her before. And when she walked the corridors with Do-Yun at her side, there was a new energy between them that everyone could feel. "You are different," Hana said one morning, studying Una with curious eyes. "Lighter somehow, happier." "I am the same person I have always been," Una replied, but she could not hide her smile. "No," Hana insisted. "Something has changed. I can feel it every time you pass by. Your emotional signature used to be like still water. Now it has current. It moves." Una glanced at Do-Hun, who stood nearby pretending to study a navigation chart. Through the bond, she felt his amusement and his warmth. "Perhaps I have simply learned to enjoy life more," Una said. "It is not a crime to be happy." Hana narrowed her eyes, clearly not satisfied with that answer, but she did not push further. The crew had learned to accept many unusual things since the human came aboard. For Do-Yun, the bond brought gifts he had never imagined. He had lived with noise in his head for so long that he had forgotten what silence felt like. The constant buzz of anxiety, the endless replay of painful memories, the weight of guilt that pressed on his chest every morning when he woke up, all of it was still there. But now it was different. Una's presence in his mind was like a cool breeze on a hot day. She did not make his pain disappear. She did not fix him or heal him or wash away his memories. But she helped him carry them. She stood beside him in the dark places of his mind and reminded him that he was not alone. And slowly, carefully, he began to heal. "I dreamed about them last night," he told her one evening as they walked through the ship's garden. Real plants grew here, brought from a dozen different worlds, filling the air with sweet scents and oxygen. The ones I could not save. But for the first time, the dream did not end with their deaths. What happened instead? They smiled at me. They told me it was all right. They told me I did the best I could, and that was enough. Una squeezed his hand. Through the bond, she felt the fragile hope blooming in his heart. It was delicate and new, like a flower pushing through cracked earth. She surrounded it with warmth and light, helping it grow. "You did do the best you could," she said. "You saved so many people that day. You carried children through fire. You pulled soldiers from burning buildings. You fought until your body broke, and then kept fighting. But there were so many I did not save. And you honor them by living, by carrying their memory, by becoming the kind of person who makes the universe better." Do-Hun stopped walking and turned to face her. His dark eyes were bright with emotions that once would have been too painful to feel. "How do you do that?" he asked. "How do you always know exactly what to say?" "I feel what you feel," Una reminded him with a gentle smile. "I know what you need to hear because I know what you are feeling. That is cheating." "Perhaps. But it works." He laughed, and the sound was like music. The crew members working in the garden looked up in surprise. They had heard the human laugh before, but not like this. This laugh came from somewhere deep inside him. From a place that had been locked away for years, the Star Weaver continued its mission, traveling between star systems, conducting diplomatic negotiations and gathering scientific data. And everywhere they went, Yuna and Do-yoon worked together in ways that amazed everyone who watched Da in negotiations. Do-hyun would sense the emotions of the other party through his natural human intuition, and Yuna would guide him through the proper diplomatic responses. They moved like dancers, each one anticipating the other's moves, each one filling the gaps in the other's abilities. In crisis situations, their bond became even more valuable. Do-hyun's human instincts, honed by years of combat, combined with Yuna's empathic awareness to create a command team that seemed almost magical. "How did you know that asteroid was going to break apart?" the navigation officer asked after one particularly dangerous maneuver. "Our sensors showed it was stable." "I did not know," Do-hyun admitted. "I felt it. Something in my gut told me it was wrong, so I acted." Human intuition, Yuna explained. It is not logical. It cannot be measured. But it is real, and it is powerful. The crew began to change their view of humans. They had always thought of human emotions as dangerous, as something to be feared and avoided. Now they saw another side. Human emotions could save lives. Human instincts could detect dangers that technology missed. Human passion could inspire courage in the darkest moments. And human love, the bond between Yuna and Do-hyun, grew stronger every day. It was not just a connection anymore. It was becoming something deeper, something neither of them had words for. "My people bond with each other all the time," Yuna told Do-hyun one night as they sat in the observation deck, watching the stars. "But those bonds are gentle. They are like holding hands in the dark. This," she gestured between them, "this is different." "How is it different?" "It is more intense, more real. With other bonds, I can always feel where I end and the other person begins. With you, that line is blurring. Sometimes I cannot tell if a feeling is mine or yours." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "I have felt that too. Yesterday, when you were frustrated with the council's bureaucracy, I felt the frustration as if it were my own. I almost sent a message telling them exactly what I thought of their paperwork requirements." Yuna laughed. "That would not have been diplomatic." "No, but it would have been honest." Through the bond, Yuna felt Do-hyun's love for her. It was not a quiet feeling. It was not gentle or soft or careful. It was a blazing fire, a force of nature, a star going supernova in slow motion. It should have terrified her. It should have burned her from the inside out. Instead, it made her feel alive. "My people will not understand this," she said softly. "A Valari bonded to a human. They will say I have been contaminated. They will say I have lost myself. Have you?" Yuna considered the question carefully. She searched inside herself, looking for the person she used to be. That person was still there. The disciplined commander, the careful diplomat, the Valari who followed rules and protocols and always put duty first. But there was more now. New colors in her emotional spectrum. New depths in her heart. New courage in her spirit. "No," she said finally. "I have not lost myself. I have found parts of myself I never knew existed." Do-hyun smiled, and through the bond, she felt his pride and his love and his fierce determination to protect her from anyone who would judge their connection. "Then let them say what they want," he said. "We know the truth. We know what this bond means, and we will face whatever comes together." Yuna leaned against him, feeling the steady beat of his human heart. It was faster than a Valari heart, more urgent, more alive. It matched the rhythm of his emotions, always pushing forward, always reaching for more. Together, she agreed, the Star Weaver sailed on through the endless dark, carrying its crew of Valari and its single human passenger toward an uncertain future. But somewhere in the heart of the ship, in the bond between a commander and a soldier, something new was being born, something that would change the galaxy forever. They just did not know it yet. The attack came without warning. One moment, the Starweaver was gliding peacefully through the contested territories, a region of space where law was weak and pirates were strong. The next moment, alarms were screaming and the ship was shaking from weapons fire. 5 ships, Officer Taiwu reported, his silver face pale with fear. They came out of a hidden asteroid field. They are moving to surround us. Yuna gripped the arms of her command chair. Through the bond, she felt Do-Yoon's mind shift from peace to combat readiness in an instant. His fear vanished, replaced by cold calculation and burning determination. "What are our options?" she asked. "We are a diplomatic vessel. Our weapons are defensive only. We cannot fight 5 warships. Can we run? They are faster than us. They will catch us before we reach safety." The bridge crew looked at Yuna with fear in their eyes. 300 souls on this ship. Scientists, artists, families. They had never been in a real battle. They had never faced death dot, and now death was coming for them. Yuna closed her eyes and reached through the bond. Do-Yoon was already moving, running toward the bridge with every ounce of speed his human body could produce. "I am coming," he said through their connection. "Hold on. I have an idea." "What kind of idea?" "The kind you are not going to like." He burst onto the bridge 30 seconds later, not even breathing hard. His eyes scanned the tactical display, taking in the positions of the enemy ships, the Starweaver's limited weapons, the distances and angles and possibilities. "Give me command of the defense systems," he said. Taiwu looked at Yuna in shock. "Commander, he's not trained on our systems. He's not even a member of our crew." "Give him command," Yuna said. Through the bond, she could feel Do-Yoon's mind working, could see the plan taking shape in his thoughts. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It was exactly the kind of desperate gamble that humans were famous for. And it might just work. Do-Yoon took the weapons console, his fingers flying over the controls. Through the bond, Yuna felt his confidence, his focus, his absolute refusal to accept defeat. "They expect us to run or surrender," he said. "They are not expecting us to fight. That is their weakness. We cannot destroy them," Yuna reminded him. "We do not need to destroy them. We just need to make them regret attacking us." The first pirate ship came in fast, weapons blazing. Do-Yoon waited until the last possible moment, then fired the Starweaver's defensive cannons in a pattern that made no tactical sense at all, except that it worked. The shots did not hit the ship's armor. They hit the ship's sensors, blinding it at the crucial moment when it was trying to target the Starweaver's engines. The pirate ship overshot, its weapons fire going wide, and before it could correct, Do-Yoon had already turned the Starweaver to present its smallest profile. "How did you know to do that?" Taiwu gasped. "I felt where they were going to aim," Do-Yoon said. Through the bond, Yuna understood. He was using his human intuition, that mysterious sixth sense that humans called gut feeling. He was reading the battle like he had read people his whole life, anticipating moves before they happened, but he was also using her. Their bond linked their minds. Yuna's empathic senses extended far beyond what Do-Yoon could feel on his own. She could sense the emotional state of the enemy crews, could feel their aggression and their overconfidence. She fed this information to Do-Yoon through the bond, and he translated it into action. It was like nothing either of them had ever experienced. They were not 2 people anymore. They were one being with 2 bodies, fighting with perfect coordination, thinking with a shared mind. The second pirate ship fell into the same trap, then the third. Each time, Do-Yoon found the pattern, exploited the weakness, turned the enemy's strength against them, but it was not enough. The pirates were learning. They were adapting. And there were still 5 of them against 1 damaged diplomatic vessel. "We cannot keep this up forever," Yuna said through the bond. "We do not need forever. We just need to make them doubt." Do-hyun did something then that shocked everyone on the bridge. He opened a communication channel to the pirate fleet. "Attention raiders," he said, his voice cold and steady. "This is Sergeant Do-hyun of the Earth Defense Forces. I have seen your tactics. I know your weaknesses. You have fought us for 10 minutes, and you have not scored a single hit. Continue this attack, and I will destroy you one by one." It was a bluff. A massive, insane bluff. The Starweaver could not destroy anything. Its weapons were barely holding the pirates at bay, but the pirates did not know that. Through the bond, Yuna felt Do-hyun projecting confidence, certainty, the absolute conviction that he would win. It radiated from him like heat from a star, and she amplified it. For the first time in her life, Yuna used her empathic powers as a weapon. She pushed Do-hyun's emotions outward, broadcasting them on every empathic frequency she could reach. Fear, doubt, uncertainty began to spread through the pirate crews. They looked at the Starweaver and saw a ship that had laughed at their attack. They looked at this human and saw a predator who was enjoying the hunt. The pirate fleet hesitated. And in that moment of hesitation, reinforcements arrived. 3 Galactic Council warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their weapons already charging. The pirates had seconds to make a choice: fight 2 battles at once or run. They ran. Yuna slumped back in her chair as the pirate ships disappeared into the darkness. The bridge was silent. No one knew what to say. Then Officer Taiwo started to clap. Soon, everyone was clapping, cheering, crying with relief. They rushed to surround Do-hyun, patting his back, touching his hands, thanking him in voices that shook with emotion. Do-hyun stood there, looking slightly confused by all the attention. Through the bond, Yuna felt his exhaustion and his relief, but also something else. Joy. Pure, simple joy at having protected the people he cared about. 1 month later, Yuna stood before the Galactic Council, Do-hyun at her side. The ancient beings who ruled the galaxy looked down at them from their high seats, their alien faces unreadable. "You were sent to study humanity," the council speaker said, "to determine if they could be safely integrated into galactic society. What is your conclusion?" Yuna straightened her spine and lifted her chin. "My conclusion is that humanity is exactly what the galaxy needs." Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. "Their emotions are intense," Yuna continued. "Their feelings burn like fire. They love and hate and fight with a passion that can seem frightening to more restrained species." She reached for Do-hyun's hand, but that same fire warms the cold void of space. That same passion protects the innocent and punishes the wicked. That same love creates bonds that span the stars. "You speak of bonds," the speaker said. "We have heard reports that you have formed an unusual connection with this human." "I have. And it has made me stronger, not weaker. It has opened my mind, not closed it. Humanity does not contaminate those who get close to them. Humanity completes us." The council deliberated in silence, their thoughts hidden behind ancient faces. Yuna waited, her heart's pounding, Do-hyun's steadiness flowing through the bond like an anchor in a storm. Finally, the speaker raised one withered hand. "The council has decided. Humanity will be welcomed into the galactic community as a full member species. Their emotional intensity will be considered an asset, not a threat. And this bond between Valari and human will be studied as a model for future integration." Yuna closed her eyes in relief. Beside her, Do-hyun let out a long breath. They had done it. They had changed the future of 2 species. When they left the council chamber, the galaxy stretched out before them, vast and full of possibility. Somewhere, out there, other humans were waiting to join the stars. Other bonds were waiting to be formed. Other walls were waiting to come down. "What now?" Do-hyun asked. Yuna smiled and squeezed his hand. "Now we go back to our ship. Our crew is waiting for us." "Our crew?" Yes, ours, you are part of the Starweaver now. Part of us. Through the bond, she felt his happiness, his gratitude, his love. It washed over her like warm sunlight, filling every corner of her soul. She had feared a bond with a human. She had feared what his chaotic emotions would do to her ordered mind. She had been wrong. Do-yoon had not destroyed her peace. He had given her something better, something deeper. He had given her fire, and together they would light up the darkness of the galaxy. The end.